Professor Biggar, I'm genuinely sorry that you will not be able to attend our debate this morning, and I acknowledge your letting me know on Friday. I've spent this weekend thinking about what to say in reply, and I've settled on this. I realized last week's episode of Free Speech Live, our first, appeared somewhat rambunctious, but I must assure you that we are deadly serious about this. In August, you criticized Dr. Joe O'Grady for suggesting the policy exchange report documenting widespread silencing on campus was a myth. I suggest once again, it is a myth. Are there controversial opinions that receive vigorous criticism and pushback? Of course. Are there tense, intergenerational, polarized battles over ethical questions, including what we should do to confront Britain's imperial legacy? Of course. How to be inclusive of transgender and non-binary folks while protecting the rights of women? Yes. How to responsibly study the tiny fraction of biological factors influencing human behavior, including intelligence? Sure. But I'll say it again. We do debate these questions all the time. All the time. As academics and authors, the vast majority of these debates take place in print. We do not regularly stand upon the dais and go back and forth point for point. We read, interrogate, analyze, and respond. When we fail to do this, in my view, we relinquish our responsibility as professionals who retain a covenant with truth. Now, as I was planning to argue, civilly and respectfully, I probably agree with you that far too often in these debates, we forget we are corresponding with other human beings. There's nothing worse than a concocted frame of us against them. But what I wanted to say was that there's presently no debate about cancel culture in the media. It is all one-sided, and it is all your side that has hitherto gotten free rein to slander academics like myself as woke sorcerers or as a hate mob. I realize you have often expressed your grievances about having been cancelled, but I will close in saying I too feel aggrieved, embattled, and frankly lied about. In essence, I'm inviting you to debate me. I would like you to say this to my face. Do you think I'm an evil, intolerant bully wanting to silence you and your conservative views at all costs? My doctoral thesis at Cambridge is literally entirely on the topic of conservative politics and ideology and their influence on universities. I have no interest in silencing you or no platforming you. Hence, I've offered to discuss what you feel is so awful and uncharacteristic about your treatment in the academy. Perhaps there's some middle ground we could reach, some kind of mutual understanding, not on the legacy of the British Empire, but on whether academic freedom in the UK is genuinely under threat, and if it is, what can we do about it? If we are genuinely professional about this, we should be able to work this out without necessitating government interference, something British academics have always endeavored to do throughout history. So I accept your withdrawal from the debate, but I extend the invitation once more in case this message changes your mind. I've kept the stream open for 11:30 this morning and have sent you the link should you wish to join me to discuss this further. I look forward to speaking with the author of the Policy Exchange Report, Professor Eric Kaufman, next week. Thank you. Hello. So, as you will have seen in our video, following along with the email I've sent to Professor Biggar, he has withdrawn from the debate. He did this earlier in the week. I don't want to make it sound like he backed out at the last minute, but it took me a while to think of what to say in reply, and you'll have seen what I just wrote to him. So I've given him the opportunity. I've explained that this isn't a joke. This is an actual discussion that I feel like needs to be had, and no one's coming to attack him or anything. But he's so far no sign of him. So I'm going to start the countdown now. As you know, we have 5 minutes before we can officially say Nigel Biggar has refused to debate me and us. So here we are. Okay, that's 2 for 2. That's two free speech warriors who have refused to debate. That's Professor Matthew Goodwin last week, and now we have Nigel Biggar, who initially said that he would come and attend the debate, but then withdrew over the weekend. I then wrote back to him this morning and invited him again. There's no hard feelings, and as I explained, this is I think we're about to have a bit of fun now, but this was a very serious invitation in that he's making an accusation against us as academics that is unfounded and unsubstantiated. So, I do hope next week Eric Kaufman comes. We've invited him. He's also said in the past that he would debate us or debate me. He said that he wanted to, and yet no reply from him either. So we'll see what happens next week. I should also point out that we are doing this now at 11:30. That's actually to accommodate Professor Biggar. We wanted to do it at 2 p.m., and he asked us to move it to 11:30. So as normal, we can adjust this to fit other people's schedules, and we just want to actually have a discussion, but apparently that's not the case. So let's bring on some other folks to discuss free speech with this week. As usual, we have Some Guy. Hello, Some Guy. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good, thanks. It seems like I've been accidentally platformed once again this week, so
there you have it.
Just go with the flow,
And also we've got Carl. Hello again, Carl. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I was excited to hear an actual debate about free speech, but this whole kind of no platforming oneself seems to be a regular feature. So I won't hold my breath. Wait for next week.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what everyone's very concerned that they are, don't have platforms, that academics are unwilling to speak with them. Yet here we are once again, 2 weeks in a row. We've offered to discuss the issue, but no luck. So let's officially get the show started. I've shortened the intro in case it was the fart sounds that turned him off. Free speech. Okay, so nothing offensive there, just a bunch of peaches. But yeah, so unfortunately, Phoenix cannot join us this week. And then there's also some other folks who have wanted to join. They might start to join us next week. If you have an interest of discussing free speech with us, please let us know. Please join us on the YouTube channel. You can send in your comments. We could see those live and in person. So any questions that you have, just post them to YouTube, and then we'll be able to answer them. But what do we think? What's happened? Nigel Biggar has no platformed himself. Is that right?
It's really unfortunate because actually I've been dying to hear what Nigel Biggar wants to say about the interview that Meghan Markle did with Oprah Winfrey. I was actually really wanting to hear his hot takes on the matter, but I guess we'll just have to read about that from the Daily Telegraph.
Yeah. Well, we won't be able to get his hot take, although I do think he's being interviewed at 2 p.m., just not by us. That's why we moved. So maybe he'll have something to say about the value of the Commonwealth at this point. Carl.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's there's this whole thing about self-justification in a vacuum that happens with a lot of these free speech warriors. So although I'm not particularly optimistic that they'll actually turn up, I think it's really important to provide this kind of platform and potential discussion base for an actual debate about these issues. And I think this kind of siloing of conversations is something which, however thought it might be, I think we should try and do. So that's kind of why I'm here at 11:30, and I think like this is only the second one, but as we kind of go into a third and a fourth, and you start to see a little bit of momentum, you see a little bit of a list building. I think that regardless of whether people are kind of true to the word and want to turn up or not, I think it can be an opportunity to actually debate some of those issues. So yeah, more momentum.
Yeah. Well, and I was actually really impressed initially that he volunteered to come. I sort of thought, oh well, we have different views on things, but good on you for being, for lack of a better word, brave or whatever. Not that we're threatening in any particular way. I mean, all the more so we're just sitting here online, basically doing a glorified Zoom. But it was. I was originally impressed that you must care so much about free speech that you're willing to defend your position against people who have a different view than you. And so yeah, I was ready to debate, and as you said, it would have been really interesting. And I think that we've just got to keep, as you said, keep the lines open, keep the discussion ready to go.
It's just sort of, I mean, in a way, what both Matthew Goodwin and Nigel Biggar have done. I mean, it's perfectly legitimate. I mean, they have chosen not to engage with people who they don't want to engage with, and in a way, that's perfectly fine. The same way that we are saying that we shouldn't have to engage with people that we don't want to engage with. Of course, that does problematize, I suppose, their accusations that nobody's willing to debate them. I think what they are seriously complaining about, I mean, their real demands, as I've said last time, is that they want essentially a safe space. They want a debate, but they only want it to take place in a safe space where their views are not going to be challenged in any way. So in other words, they probably looked at Nigel Biggar probably looked at what we did last week, and then decided that it's not going to be a safe space for him to pronounce his views on the British Empire without challenge, and so he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the frustrating things is, and I mentioned, I don't know if everyone has seen the video that I posted in my reply. Some folks have just arrived. Maybe I can play that again in case people tuned in directly at 11:30. But in my reply to Nigel, oh, have I lost it?
No, we can still hear you.
No, I'm
Froze,
still here.
but audio's still good.
Okay, good. Yeah, so in my reply, people debate these things all the time. It's just that they don't do them in this particular format of standing on a podium. They do so in print. And the idea that Nigel Biggar, that no one has engaged with his ideas, is absurd. I mean, there are numerous articles and books that are saying why his position is incorrect on the British Empire. As normal academics do, they criticize in print.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if you want to make an academic argument, then you should expect to be confronted. And there seems to be this slip and slide with this free speech thing, where people like to say, well, my opinion is being, or my point of view is being sidelined, but actually it's just being confronted. And that's kind of part of academic kind of debate and discourse. So it seems it's not just against the notion of free speech, but also against the mere notion of the kind of academic discourse which they are inherently a part of. And I think we should really hone down on this thing about the right not to be confronted, which seems to be the actual prevailing notion that keeps recurring every time you try and have a conversation with people from an opposing point of view.
Yeah. Well, and here's two questions from YouTube. One is, why say yes if you then decide not to turn up? Why not just ignore the invitation? I mean, that was sort of Matthew Goodwin's reply. He actually did acknowledge that he was invited. He just said that he had been summoned and didn't respond to summons. But I didn't send the bailiff around. He said he was always happy to debate. But so yeah, why not just ignore the invitation? And this is related. Jennifer asking what were the reasons he gave to you for canceling? And yeah, what he said, he had not done his due diligence, and he was apologized. And his due diligence was watching the first episode that we did. So, I mean, and again, I don't think that. I think we're laughing, right? Like it's not a standard format. We're trying to do something new here, but we are all academics, aren't we? It's like, why be afraid to just discuss what you think if you're so confident in what you have to say and that it's correct? And the only thing I could think of is that he would think that we were genuinely woke sorcerers. And
I mean, to be fair, in the first episode, I did ask if anyone knew what Nigel Biggar's workload model looks like. So maybe he just didn't want to discuss his workload model.
Well, I mean, the Telegraph articles are not going to write themselves, although you could probably put them on auto generator.
Yeah, I mean, those articles in Daily Telegraph are fascinating, right? Because they are, essentially the same, except that the photograph it has varying levels of zoom. So yes. Sometimes Nigel Biggar is bigger and sometimes Nigel Biggar is smaller. So
yes, I think I have a collection somewhere of,
Let's have a look.
Different photos. Because they're all on the same day, I think, as well. They're all sort of there's just this one particular rainy day in Oxford. Here's Jennifer also saying it's interesting how much tone policing they do despite saying they're against it. Indeed. I mean, a lot of this seems to be about we haven't done the format correctly. Like, it's almost like, why didn't they say we needed white tie and join them at the Oxford Union,
Yeah. But also anyone is, especially anyone invited is onto the show, is capable of constructing the format. I mean, it's very clear that I wouldn't say we're winging it, but we're constructing the format as we go, right? Because ideally, it's an opportunity to have a debate. When we don't have that debate, there's other issues around that we think are worthy of discussing. So there is no strict format that somehow doesn't allow any of these people to express their point of view, because that just hasn't been established. So again, it's a kind of specious, disingenuous way of avoiding actual kind of debate or discourse. So,
yeah,
it's a shame. It's not surprising, but it's a shame.
Yeah. Well, and here's Patrick asking, what if we switched it and asked them to specify the exact conditions under which he would debate? I think that's fair. I mean, I think this live stream format is good because it puts a certain amount of pressure on things. And again, we moved it. I still can't get over the fact that, this might be the last time we move it from 2 p.m., folks. I mean, I feel like if you move the debate from 2 to 11:30 to accommodate someone, there's whatever due diligence is, I think that's worth kind of doing in advance. So
maybe Nigel just wants a couple of wingmen. So maybe if we invite Nigel and Matt Goodwin and Eric Kaufman, all three of them, maybe Nigel will feel a little bit more comfortable.
The Holy Trilogy. I think I do think that's a pertinent question that I think it was Patrick Arts. I think, there's this thing where on Twitter people happily just like throw out the message saying, yeah, I'll debate you anytime. And then you go back to them and say, yeah, okay, under what conditions do you want to do that debate? And like maybe your only condition is you want it to be a kind of live video call, but other than that, so the kind of excuses become a little bit more obvious. I know there's this point at which you've gone out of your way to make it easy, but I think it's good to have it in a kind of formalized way. It's kind of, what do you require?
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing I did realize when he agreed, I did realize it's actually a bit of a challenge to do a debate without a moderator. I mean, I would trust myself to give him time and turns, but I actually realized the format was almost a bit more like an interview with a kind of an interviewer on the other side, and that's not necessarily. I can understand why that's not necessarily the format, but we could change that. We could bring in a neutral moderator, or another thing we can do is we can invite two people on either side. So we could have invited Priyam Vadagopal to debate Nigel Biggar if she would have been willing to, and then we could have provided a neutral space to organize the turn taking and all the rest of it. But I think I also don't particularly want to debate empire. I don't want to debate, the definition of a woman or whatever. And, one thing that's worth saying, I think Carl mentioned this, that it is International Women's Day. So there's sort of something that we could say as three dudes.
Happy International Women's Day.
Yeah, congratulations on no platforming all women again. But
we'll have to do better in episode 3.
But we do have some folks lined up. But yeah, I mean I don't know, what do we think? Is the format off, or is it a good one?
I don't really think it's a question of the format. I think Nigel just thinks if he comes on, we're going to take the piss out of him. Which, to be fair, is not an entirely unfounded assumption. But hey, yeah, I mean, he just doesn't feel like he wants to subject himself to ridicule, even though, I mean, in the vision of free speech from these free speech warriors, like ridiculing other people, it's free speech. Like, it happens. Yeah. It's totally cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I wonder.
You should make a list.
A list of the features, or a list of who we'll invite, or
either or both.
Okay. Well, first, shall I go over to our wall of heroes? Let's. I've constructed this. Let's see. Here's our wall of heroes.
What font is that, Eric?
Oh, does anyone want to guess which font that
is? I'm guessing that's Comic Sans.
Okay, so
oh my.
Wait, Professor Matthew. Good one.
I'm lost for words.
So that's one.
Okay. Yep.
Professor Nigel Biggar. And then these are invitations now, have gone out to Professor Eric Kaufman. And now I should point out, none of us are professors, are we? I still have my probation or whatever I'm supposed to be. Maybe I shouldn't draw attention to that, but
Professor in progress.
There we are.
It's color match.
But Kaufman still has a chance.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna let me just match all of the
Put them in
fonts.
italics.
There we are. Okay.
Looks
Document
great.
this beautiful thing.
I think you need some clip art as well. In the, yeah.
Okay.
I'd forgotten about the existence of clip art. And this.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, there's like one classic clip art that you see all the time on university campus. It's like the guy who sort of hits the desk like this. I think it's like it suggests action. So, but yeah, I mean, coming back to the fact that none of us are professors. I mean, I'm guessing in some circles I'm somehow a mid-career academic, even though certainly doesn't feel that way. Yeah, maybe we need more heavyweights. Maybe Nigel looks at us and decides we are lightweights who are not worth his time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably a little bit more skeptical than you guys about the reasons for why these academics adopt the free speech mantra. And I think it's a lot to do with kind of self-publicity and pushing not even an agenda, but putting themselves into a position of limelight, for want of a better word. So I would be very happy to continue to invite these kind of high-profile individuals, but I'd imagine that we're not high-profile enough for them, because being on this platform doesn't increase their circulation. You know, maybe we need a mid-weight free speech warrior who, isn't quite getting the right number of articles or any articles in like nationally read media. And they could use it as a way to kind of they could see it as a way to kind of bolster their profile, whereas, obviously Nigel Biggar already has that profile.
Yeah.
It's just me being cynical.
So what you're saying, Carl, is that if we get our Twitter account to have 250,000 followers or something like that, then
they'll come on.
We will be worthy of being.
Yeah, we've got to be worthy. Yeah, we have to actually be, what's this term? This kind of woke mob. I forget the term. There's another adjective in there.
Hate.
We need to become the elite, woke, liberal mob. Yeah.
Well, and with the thing with the woke stuff or whatever, it's like it used to be politically correct, then it was like snowflakes, and then it was, it just seems like the words changed, and now everybody hates woke stuff, but there's no one particularly on the. I realized that there was a kind of idea of woke in certain forms of critical race analysis and sort of activism, but that was also several years ago. That's not like, as far as I remember, it's not like it's not the au fait term necessarily, and it just sort of seems like it's just lost all of meaning as it's become an epithet, and I'm not even sure what's wrong with being woke to begin with anyway.
Yeah, well, it's I think I said it last week, but it's this bizarre idea that being told that you can't say things that you used to say 30 years ago is somehow some attack on humanity or free speech. And it's like, well, yeah, there's certain things that you could say 30 years ago that you can't say now. I mean, I just say 30 years ago, you pick any kind of moment in time, and every time that happens, there's a new word to kind of contradict or counteract that idea. And again, that's a thing that I think any of us would be happy to debate, kind of what you can and can't say. But also in terms of kind of Nigel Biggar in particular, it's not about what you can and can't say. It's about a very, again, I'm overusing this word, I need to find another one, but kind of disingenuous approach to kind of history. It's like, that's not, if you actually run through the way in which he wants to look at history and colonialism, what they actually mean and what actually they are and what they were, it's completely disingenuous, and that's why he doesn't want to have a debate, because it's unsustainable. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, here's a question. Well, actually, before I take that question, I just wanted to. I was trying to find this thing that you were referring to, Carl, which was I made this point about Kathleen Stock, and it's interesting because she since deleted the tweet I made, which was that the end game was self-promotion, because I think she said something along the lines of, what's great about getting the OBE and to have all of these people censoring her. I think it was like, thank you to all of my critics for making me have so many hits on website. And it just goes to this thing of how it's like a sort of self-promotion game as well.
Self-promotion game.
And yeah. And I said, want to have 1,000 articles on your wrong point of view, claim it's being censored, and watch the clicks tally up. And that seems to be, something that certainly the right wing in America especially figured this out a long time ago, which is why all of a sudden everyone wants to be silenced now, I think.
Yeah, everyone wants to be silent so they can talk. I think in America it's a much further down the road. I mean, it's much more deeply intertwined with politics, with mainstream politics. Not that there isn't a degree of that here with I just forgot his name, the education secretary.
Gavin.
Yeah. Gavin Newsom making that declaration about kind of a free speech. But in American politics, in particular Republican politics, it's so much more embedded. But you can see how people are taking a cue from what's happening in American politics.
Yeah. Well, there is a genuine international. Steve Bannon has this weird monastery in the Balkans that he trains right-wing culture warriors to come back to Britain. Does anyone remember that guy who set that up? He was like a conservative MEP or something. Have you heard about this?
No. Keep
Do you
going.
know this, Leon?
What were you talking about?
This is like this weird. No, there's like this former Tory donor, or he might have been an MEP, and he's gone and found this like monastery in the Balkans where they do like mixed martial arts and learn right-wing culture war techniques.
This is not Daniel.
Steve Bannon founded it. No one's heard of this other than me.
This does sound.
It sounds like something from Batman or whatever, like Dark Knight Rises. What's the guy's name? Ra's al Ghul or whatever his name is?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard about this. This is
okay. Well, I'll research it for next week, and I'll tell you guys all about this like weird monastery of free speech warrior training center. But yeah, it's international.
It's set up by Steve Bannon.
Yeah, Steve Bannon runs it. So yeah, they're organized. I think we talked about this last week. It's like we're not organized, as you can tell. But one more thing I wanted to say. So with Kathleen Stock, I feel like we can ask her. I wonder if she would actually turn up though.
Doubt it, but we should ask her. We should extend the invitation.
So shall we? Let's see. Shall we make? Where's my wall of heroes? Shall we do Kathleen Stock, number 4?
Yeah.
And she's a professor.
We can invite. I mean, I don't want to be controversial. We can invite 2 people a week, because even if they turned up, you can debate 2 people.
I'm
debate
sorry.
each other.
It's Kathleen Stock OBE, by the way.
Yes,
okay.
I don't know if the OBE translates well to Comic Sans.
Nothing translates well to Comic Sans. It's Comic Sans.
You don't periods. Just OB. I mean, come on, Eric. This is really showing you up for how little you know about the British.
It's Nigel Biggar, a reverend. I can't. No, he's just a professor of theology. He's not.
He's not a reverend. No.
Okay. I don't want to get it incorrect, but
yeah, I think you can invite 2 people a week.
Well, maybe we should invite, Eric Kaufman. I know Phoenix has an interest of kind of discussing Kaufman's statistics and so forth.
Yeah.
She probably would not want to speak to Kathleen Stock, or maybe she would. I don't know. Maybe they would. Phoenix, who was not here this week because we had to change the time for Nigel Biggar.
We accommodate.
Yeah. So that gives us a plan for the future. Oh, one thing I was wondering was when we do want to develop our list, I found a very handy aid that Matthew Goodwin posted, where he's given us a full list here. We've got Noah Carl, Jordan Peterson, Kathleen Stock, Rosa Friedman, Selena Todd, Nigel Biggar, Bruce Gilley. Now, certainly those first ones, I know many things that they have to say. So I've definitely heard of all of them. I know their positions. I cannot see how it can be argued that they're silenced. But I don't know Joe Phoenix. Does anyone know Joe Phoenix? Or these other folks?
Well, we can be
Gilroy in there?
No, I don't know who.
No.
Right. I'm assuming Matthew Goodwin doesn't mean Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, Joe Phoenix is maybe it's what in Gladiator when it's like the thumbs down.
Okay, I think she's according to Google, she's at Open University and is a professor of criminology, and she was about to give a lecture at Essex on trans rights in prisons.
Okay, trans rights in prisons.
And then it was the university decided. Well, the students said they would protest at Joe Phoenix's talk, and then the university then made the decision to cancel the event.
Right, and so I guess the free speech position is that they shouldn't cancel the event; that the institution should just keep it going.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, in this case, I mean, it's the university management that has decided to do this. I mean, if university management was happy to have students protesting at the talk peacefully, then the talk could go ahead, right?
Yeah. Well, because I always see, isn't the protest a form of free speech as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course.
And this has also happened all, there's never been a point where there's not been students protesting reactionary speakers. I mean, they've been doing that since like 1848 at least.
Students do.
Yeah, I was reading there's like Tony Jutt's biography when he was at King's in Cambridge, and he was talking about, I think when Harold Wilson came by, all the students, they like jumped on his limousine and whatever and like threw their bodies on the limousine, and they were like, stop the Vietnam War. And then he went inside and gave his talk, and then they just went and had a pint, over at the Eagle or whatever. Like that's just what students do. They just protest all the time, or at least some of them do.
Yeah.
Now, whether the university shuts down the thing for security reasons or whatever is a different story. But I mean, at some point, you have to allow students to vent as well.
Yeah, I mean.
But I like this idea of inviting Krista Peterson to debate Kathleen Stock. That would be ideal.
Oh, yeah.
And also, here's Simon asking if there are any junior free speech warriors. Well, there's Noah Carl, who, I would be keen to have him explain why in his job interview he listed 100 articles in a no peer-reviewed journal. That's one thing to defend. And then here's Bob. Do you think freedom of speech debates can be interesting. I don't know. Well, you need at least to have a
It
debate.
hasn't happened yet. We don't know.
We've yet to have one. You find them very boring when free speech warriors just keep repeating the same talking points. Well, but I would say that's because they don't invite us. They don't invite the other side to their debates.
I think it's because there's not a debate, right? I mean, this what we have right now isn't a debate, obviously, but what we're trying to do is set up a debate. And I think the whole point of the debate or the discourse is to have people with opposing points of view actually kind of test their ideas. And I think that's what we're here. But I think Bob's comment is kind of right in the statement that it's often boring because there isn't a debate. So I think I'm repeating myself now, which is always my tendency, but I think that's the kind of desperate aim to cultivate some form of debate from different silos.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, here's our wall of heroes. It's only week 2, so Eric Kaufman has the opportunity to turn the tide. I was really excited to talk to Nigel Biggar because, if nothing else, he could have shown that it is acceptable, and that if you're going to make a really outrageous claim, which they're doing, that you should be prepared to defend yourself, and that you can defend yourself. And I'm yet to be convinced that they can, outside of their safe spaces. So, let me just very briefly, I'll put on the video once more of my reply to Professor Biggar. I'll put that on now. And we'll see what you think, because I thought I was very reasonable. I was hopeful he would turn up.
Dear Professor Biggar, I'm genuinely sorry that you will not be able to attend our debate this morning, and I acknowledge your letting me know on Friday. I've spent this weekend thinking about what to say in reply, and I've settled on this. I realized last week's episode of Free Speech Live, our first, appeared somewhat rambunctious, but I must assure you that we are deadly serious about this. In August, you criticized Dr. Joe O'Grady for suggesting the policy exchange report documenting widespread silencing on campus was a myth. I suggest once again, it is a myth. Are there controversial opinions that receive vigorous criticism and pushback? Of course. Are there tense, intergenerational, polarized battles over ethical questions, including what we should do to confront Britain's imperial legacy? Of course. How to be inclusive of transgender and non-binary folks while protecting the rights of women? Yes. How to responsibly study the tiny fraction of biological factors influencing human behavior, including intelligence? Sure. But I'll say it again. We do debate these questions all the time. All the time. As academics and authors, the vast majority of these debates take place in print. We do not regularly stand upon the dais and go back and forth point for point. We read, interrogate, analyze, and respond. When we fail to do this, in my view, we relinquish our responsibility as professionals who retain a covenant with truth. Now, as I was planning to argue, civilly and respectfully, I probably agree with you that far too often in these debates, we forget we are corresponding with other human beings. There's nothing worse than a concocted frame of us against them. But what I wanted to say was that there's presently no debate about cancel culture in the media. It is all one-sided, and it is all your side that has hitherto gotten free rein to slander academics like myself as woke sorcerers or as a hate mob. I realize you have often expressed your grievances about having been cancelled, but I will close in saying I too feel aggrieved, embattled, and frankly lied about. In essence, I'm inviting you to debate me. I would like you to say this to my face. Do you think I'm an evil, intolerant bully wanting to silence you and your conservative views at all costs?
My doctoral thesis at Cambridge is literally entirely on the topic of conservative politics and ideology and their influence on universities. I have no interest in silencing you or no platforming you. Hence, I've offered to discuss what you feel is so awful and uncharacteristic about your treatment in the academy. Perhaps there's some middle ground we could reach, some kind of mutual understanding, not on the legacy of the British Empire, but on whether academic freedom in the UK is genuinely under threat, and if it is, what can we do about it? If we are genuinely professional about this, we should be able to work this out without necessitating government interference, something British academics have always endeavored to do throughout history. So I accept your withdrawal from the debate, but I extend the invitation once more in case this message changes your mind. I've kept the stream open for 11:30 this morning and have sent you the link should you wish to join me to discuss this further. I look forward to speaking with the author of the Policy Exchange Report, Professor Eric Kaufman, next week. Thank you.
Reasonable.
Yeah, I thought I was very sensible. I was really hoping that he would come by after, I understand he didn't
After
want
saying
to.
he would. Yeah,
It
no,
is
after
what it
saying
is.
he would. Yeah.
So for next week, one of the things that we might have a chance to do is Phoenix actually found this event, and I think some other of our colleagues were unable to register. I'm not sure what the issue was, but let me pull up this event on the screen. Right. So Taylor Vintners, in partnership with the University of Buckingham, have this event coming up on Friday. No, so is it a week from Friday? So it's not this Friday, the following 19th of March. Taylor Vintners, in partnership with the University of Buckingham, talking about academic freedom under threat. So it'll I sense that they already assume it is under threat. Highlight the gravity of the threats.
What's Taylor Vintners? What's Taylor Vintners? It sounds like one of those brands of like fake posh soap.
Well, it sounds. Isn't that like the person who stars in like that one caveman movie? You know what I'm talking about? Taylor something. John something. The film. Anyway, I don't know.
They're a law firm.
Sorry?
They're a law firm. I'm just looking it up now. It says that they're a law firm that works with innovative and entrepreneurially minded people and businesses.
Okay, well that's us. That's us.
Yeah. We should give them a call. They sound perfect. Yeah.
Well, no, but so some people couldn't get in, but I've gotten registered. I've got my registration. I've managed to register, so that's great.
You crossed the bar.
Yes, but it's going to be Chatham House rules, so nothing will leave the room. What happens in Vegas
stays in.
What happens in Buckingham stays in Buckingham. I'm sure. Okay.
But why? Are they really afraid that they're going to have particular statements attributed to them, or like letting the wider world know what their views are, that they're so desperate for other people to hear?
Well, Eric can tell us when he attends.
Yeah. Well, and I expect nothing to be attributed to me. But if you see anything that says, "What are you guys talking about?" Someone said, "You guys are making all of this up," you'll probably guess that was me. But yeah, no, I mean, I guess that they don't, because Chatham House rules means you can like say something, but not who said it, right?
Yeah.
But
so this is this Friday, right?
No, it's. I thought it was this Friday, but it's a week from Friday, so we have some time to to prepare questions. If anyone would like to send in some questions. So we've got Kathleen Stock, OBE, Eric Kaufman. I mean, we can run Free Speech Live debates from, if it was in person, we could do it right there. Because Kathleen, Lord of the Realm, Kathleen Stock, Eric Kaufman, Douglas Murray, classic. We should add him because Douglas Murray is very upset about what happens in universities. And I would just really like to ask him when was the last time he had anything stepped foot on a university campus. Let's see. We've got some lawyers. Tom Simpson, who I think did the report. These folks, I think, did report with Eric Kaufman. Don't know about Paul Yole. And then Ayan Hirsi Ali, which is great.
She's now Ferguson's partner, isn't she?
Yes. And I can't and so she was very involved in the Geert Wilders political party in the Netherlands, so very kind of anti-Islam. But I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say someone is Islamophobic, because that would be really offensive to them.
As opposed to the act of Islamophobia.
Yeah. You should only be allowed to say really offensive things about Islam, and
not to be accused of saying really offensive things. Yeah. Yes. That's where the line is. The accusation is the line, not the action.
It's interesting that this event is happening at University of Buckingham, which is it one? I think there are only like 5 private universities, right?
It has strong links with Thatcher, doesn't it?
It's practically Margaret Thatcher University.
Well, I think it was founded. From what I believe, it was founded in the late 1970s. There was this thing called the Black Papers or something, or like the Black Letters. It was this kind of anonymous criticism of the way curriculum and education was going, where it was kind of like opening up to widened participation amongst groups. And of course, you get this kind of. It must. I mean, the fact that it was anonymous must have had the same issue of like, you can't say anymore that working class people are thick and shouldn't go to university, which is what they wanted to say. And so they said, well, we need to have a classical curriculum and sort of maintain the really elitist kind of grammar school curriculum and so forth. And the universities are stifling their ability to do, to say things. And so they founded Buckingham University in that context. I don't know if it was the same people, but now I think it's largely a kind of a business school but they had the vice chancellor was really kind of
Anthony
new age stuff, right?
Anthony Seldon, who I think possibly retired, so now it's a new guy, right?
Right.
And I think what University of Buckingham also does, like 2-year degrees, which most universities don't do.
Right.
But
they do want to do that.
And apparently the chancellor is Mary Archer, who is, I believe, it's still married to Jeffrey Archer. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm excited to go. So Eric Kaufman. Wait, so Kaufman is talking about the British context, and Douglas Murray is talking about the American context? What on earth does Douglas Murray know about America?
Well, you'll find out at 12:40.
Yes. Well, so that's something to look forward to, not next week. Next week we will hopefully be discussing with Eric Kaufman his latest report, which had a 2% response rate on his survey. I mean, you honestly can't make this stuff up, can you? And I mean, if I submitted a survey to anywhere that had 2% response rate, and I think he sent the thing only to an organization called the National Association of Scholars, which is essentially an organization for conservatives who feel aggrieved by university. And then he was like, "How do you feel?" and then it's like 85% felt like they couldn't say what they wanted, and it's like, well, yeah. You went and talked to like the 10 people who feel like they can't say anything, and even one out of those said that was fine.
Yeah, they were like, it's actually okay. That's incredible.
But anyway, so we'd like to discuss that with Eric Kaufman, with Professor Eric Kaufman, head of Department of Politics at Birkbeck University.
I'd just be really interested in asking him about lunch, because that seems to be the real sticking point.
Oh yes, absolutely, yes.
Oh,
of course, because that's the question, is whether you would have lunch with someone or not.
Yeah.
So maybe next week as well, for those of you watching live, what we can do is we'll obviously ask Eric Kaufman to come. Phoenix will be here to ask questions. Maybe we can ask Jonathan Portes to come by and do some statistical analysis of these claims. But maybe on Twitter as well, we can run a poll, and it'll be a poll of who we'd like to eat lunch with as during the live stream. Because it'll be just after lunch, and we can see whether would you have lunch with Hitler? Would you have lunch with I don't know, like the baby from Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Yeah.
Isn't there a film called
It's quite a range.
Yes.
From Hitler to the baby from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So
well, you gotta, because it's unclear, and it just asked the people, didn't it just ask, like, have you ever felt like someone wouldn't eat lunch with you or something like that? It's like, well, how do you know you're not a jerk? Selection bias. No one wants to eat with you. It's not necessarily because you love the British Empire. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It could be because you chew with your mouth open or something. But anyway, shall we call it there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Professor Biggar didn't want to attend. That's another no-show for our Wall of Heroes, but we'll do this again next week with Eric Kaufman. I'll send the email now to remind him that he's invited. And thank you to Carl and some guy for agreeing to sit on this platform yet again. And we'll see everyone next time.
Yeah. See you next week.
Free speech.
Cool.